Hey everyone, I'm Britt, and I have two discussions to share with you today with Steve and Ian of HueForge. If you are already into 3D printing as a hobby, then you might have heard of HueForge already. But in the case that you have not heard of them, let me give you a quick story. Steve has created a program where you can create a much more smooth, almost realistic type of nearly two-dimensional print off of a 3D printer. These prints have the illusion of depth without actually having a whole bunch of bulk to them in comparison to what 3D prints typically look like. It is currently available to purchase, and I will have all of the links for you down below. I reached out to Steve and Ian, and they graciously gave me some of their time so that we could talk about their work, and I hope you enjoy. Hey everyone, what's up? This is Britt, and I am here with Steve of HueForge. Steve, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Britt.
Good to see you again. Because we've got to see you absolutely everywhere in social media, because you've come up with something that is so interesting, and I would really love if you could share your project with us.
Sure. My project's called HueForge. It's a name my family and I picked out on a 17-hour car ride to Florida. It originally started as a program to do layered color backlit lithophanes. That's what I started doing, and I ran into this guy Ian in the UK who was doing what I thought was the same thing I was doing, but by hand. And it turned out he was doing them front lit. He was going on a dark background and then building up lighter colors. And when I looked at that, I said, that's not totally different from what I'm doing. It's just doing the light differently. And I think I can make my program do that too. And I talked to him about it a little bit, and I said, hey, how long is it taking you to make these? And he told me I'm sitting hours in front of my slicer making one layer adjustment at a time and figuring it out because he knows the filaments in his head. I started working on it. I gave it to him, and he would create something and print it and say, yeah, it's not quite right. And so back and forth over time, it didn't take too long. We got it working to where he said, oh my gosh, this is so much faster. I can do these so much faster than I ever did before. And he was doing them all in black and white because that's really all he could handle. Even when you're shining light through it, it's CMYK, and we don't do that in our heads very well. RGB we can kind of do, but CMYK is pretty rough to do in your head. So once he started realizing he had colors to play with, he got real excited. And then I was working on another project, and I saw someone had some dungeon tiles, and I thought, I could probably load those dungeon tiles in and color them, and then you wouldn't have to paint them if you're not very good at painting. I know some people, that's the process, right? They like to print them and paint them, and that's their fun, and that's great. But there's a lot of people who don't feel like they have the painting skills, don't have the time to paint. And so I was able to do that, and when I did that, people started getting really excited. Whoa, can I get that program you're using? What are you using? How are you doing this? And that's when I realized, hey, maybe this is the direction I should take my program, because it's just as cool to do these multicolor things with a 3D printer when it's not backlit. But so then I started developing that technique more. And I started thinking of new applications for it, like faux materials, like marble or things like that. I made a couple chessboards. People got more interested in it. And then I made some things that had really compelling depth illusions. I hadn't really done anything with an illusion of depth in it, and was able to show that they were really not thick. They were thin. The cameo is the most famous, I think. The first one was a tile that just looks like it has carved stone. And that's when people started noticing it. I've been putting stuff out for a month and a half now on Twitter regularly, a few things on Reddit. And I've had my Substack for a while because people have been asking, hey, can I get this? Can I do it? And I decided that I wasn't going to give it away. I was going to sell it because I spent a lot of time on it. I think after I showed that feather video to Joel Telling and he freaked out over it, that's what really pushed me out. And then it's just kind of been a rush ever since. I called it a front lit lithophane or a reverse lithophane because I didn't have a name for it. And people got kind of annoyed with that because it's not a lithophane.
Not a lithophane.
The light's not going, although I would argue that the light is going in and back out. It's a double lithophane, but it really is very much like a painting process where you're putting layers of a medium on top of a canvas, more or less, that you create. Someone asked me what to call it, and I said, you know what, I'm calling it filament painting now, and that name kind of stuck. And I think a lot of people who paint or who do art, it resonates with them. They can see that that's what's happening here. We're painting with filament. There were all these other names people suggested, but that was the one that seemed to fit the best.
I agree 1,000%. I just think what's so impressive is the depth that you perceive, and then when you turn it off to the side, it just is a total like whoop when you see this tiny little thin print. I mean, it's so minute.
Yep.
in comparison to what you're seeing, which is fantastic. That's really, really neat thing to make. So I'm curious, when you first reached out to Ian, were you like on a mission to make a program? Were you on a mission to make a specific lithophane? Like, what were you looking to do when you saw Ian's art and you're like, wait, something drew you to his art?
So I was already making backlit color lithophanes with my software. And I was looking for other people that were interested in a similar or the same process. Like, I was looking for like-minded people who wanted to make art kind of like I wanted to make. And I saw him in the Bamboo Labs forum, and I saw it post up there, and it looked so much like what I was doing. I knew he was using more than one color. I knew he was laying them down and printing them flat. And I wanted to know, what filaments are you using? Because I've had trouble with some of these colors being too opaque and not letting light through. And I was talking to him, and he was complaining about the same things I was complaining about. And I said, I think I can help you. And that would be kind of cool. I'd love to be able to help you. Even if all I do is help you and you can do this faster and I never do this again because I'm all into backlit lithophanes, then it'll still be worth doing.
Did you have them just like around the house? You give those out for gifts at holidays?
They're mostly in the window of my office. My wife's not thrilled about the style that I like. So she's like, I don't really want them around my house. I'm like, okay, fine. I'll take them to my office, my work. So.
What's beautiful though is that she could be honest with you. Yeah. That's really nice, at least. Yeah, we all have different styles in art. I can't, that's understandable. Are you into any fandoms?
I mean, I'm into some fandoms, but not as much as I used to be, just because I don't have time to be as much. Like I grew up huge into Star Trek. I went to all the Lord of the Rings movies on opening day. So I'm like, I love Star Wars is great too, but my first love had been Star Trek. Oh, and I'm a huge fan of Red Dwarf. I don't know if you're familiar with Red Dwarf. Red Dwarf. It's a British sci-fi parody series from the late 90s.
But I'll be looking it up now.
Sorry. late 80s into the 90s. Okay. There were some later seasons.
So what is your art style? Is there something that you lean towards, or are you kind of just open to whatever is going to help showcase your program?
I've always actually liked nature drawings, like flower diagrams and bird diagrams and things like that.
Okay. Like the old scientific.
Yeah. Okay. Technical, but with color and things like that in them. I've always liked that. There are some abstracts I do like. I really like Galateo the Spheres by Dali. Oh, but I love Hopper's Night Owls at the Cafe, or Nighthawks at the Cafe. And then for the work I've been doing here, a lot of it was finding styles that I could get Midjourney to generate that would work. Not all styles work. I think there's some solutions to that, but that's for the future.
You spend a lot of time with AI, huh?
I spent more in the past. Now I'm much better at knowing what I want and how to get it. I'll go a week and not use Midjourney, and then all of a sudden I'll be like, oh, I want to make this. And then it'll be, maybe an hour of prompting, and I'll be like, that, and that. Okay, let's go with there. The Spaceman, that's been really popular. That was someone dropped a prompt and it dropped an image. I'm like, that's a great image. I want to do something like that, but I don't want to steal his image. And he put the prompt right there. I'm like, okay, I can make a slight adjustment to that prompt and make a new image that's not his image. So that's great.
So this is what you do for work as well, right?
I program for work, yeah. And actually, this is the first significant amount of very non-work programming that I've done, really.
Okay, that's what I was going to ask, is a lot of people kind of get to the end of their workday, but I find really passionate people are like, there's no end to the workday. I really like what I do.
I used to take the train every day, and so that would give me an hour each way. And so normally on the way home, if I had an idea, I'd bang on my laptop and work on it a little bit.
I know there's not a lot of time for hobbies, or a lot of hobbies outside of what we do for day jobs. Mm-hmm. But how did you start in 3D printing? Did you start in 3D printing recently, or is that something that you've done for a minute?
So I started, I think I got a printer for my birthday in 2019, I think. I got an Ender 3 Pro. I had said a long time ago, once a decent printer got under like $250, then I wanted to get one. But we didn't really have a place for it in the house, so I was like bringing it on the kitchen counter and leaving it there
like
for 3
a lot
hours.
Of us, yeah.
Leaving it there at print for 3 hours and then putting it away somewhere. And very early, I went to multicolor by layer, making bag tags for my kids' sports teams.
We love the functional prints. Yeah. I've
been doing print by layer, color by layer forever. So when I thought, I need to swap filament a couple times, I was like, yeah, that's no big deal. I do that all the time.
You said it earlier, there's like this huge resistance in 3D printing, people who don't want to paint. which I get it. There are a lot of people who don't want to paint, so this at least gives people an option to create something a little bit more intricate than they would if they still refused the painting, but they can still use the material that they have.
Right.
The one thing I know people don't like about painting is it's like a completely different medium, whereas at least now they can get that same effect, but just using the filament that they already have instead of having to go out there. Now I have to go buy paintbrushes and I have to go buy a compressor and an air gun and all these paints.
And people who do like to paint even are like, this is going to save me a lot of time, and I can put some wash coats over it and make it a whole lot more realistic. And then I can spend my time on the miniature or on something else that I really want to paint and not the dungeon floors.
The floors are great. I think that was one of the things I saw, the marble floor or the marble checkerboard.
Chessboard, checkerboard.
The chessboard, yeah. I honestly looked at it and just was like, oh, why are they showing a picture of a chessboard? I just assumed it was the pieces. And my eyes just went right over the board and was just like, oh, wait a second. The board was 3D printed because it was so believable.
Yeah.
At that once over that I didn't even, pinpoint as like that being the subject, which is a beautiful set, by the way.
Thank you.
Outside of the 3D printing stuff, so like 2019 did the 3D printing stuff, started with the Ender, like a lot of us did. Is there any other like art or any other craft that you've done previously that kind of transferred over into the 3D printing stuff, or was it like the tech of 3D printing that was really interesting?
No, I was pretty big into woodworking. I still like woodworking.
Oh, cool.
And actually, when I grew up, I would carve soap and I would sculpt and I would do things like that as well. I've never been good at painting. I've tried painting things and I'm just not that good at it. I don't mind it, but I've had many, many people tell me very nicely, that sculpture is beautiful. You might want to work on the painting though. And so I'm like, okay, great. Like that's fair. I mean, fair. I'm actually pretty good at taking criticism. And so as long as it's meant well, and I still have a shop and everything, and I do stuff from time to time.
Do you have a date that this might be available?
Nearly 100% it'll come out in June.
It's a very neat tool with so much potential. And I'm absolutely sure you're going to have tons of people that are going to be big fans of it and going to want to talk to other people about it. So when it comes to the community aspect of this, do you guys plan on hosting some kind of a Facebook page, community space to share with HueForge?
Yeah, so I am planning on a Discord and probably a Facebook group because I think there's a lot of value to people coming on Facebook and seeing, oh, these are cool things that are being made in this group and it's showing up and then, finding out about it. But I want the Discord to be a little bit more focused on people who are actually using the tool day to day.
If anyone is interested, you're going to be continuing to update the Substack page, right?
Correct.
Which we will have linked. So we'll have all of the socials linked down below as well. I have to ask this one last question, as annoying as it is, because you are a person who also has children. Do your kids have any interest in 3D printing whatsoever? Or is it just like, that's just like a thing Dad does?
They're very interested in what I can 3D print for them that they want.
They don't want to actually learn the 3D printing themselves.
No, it's too hard.
That sounds familiar.
They want all the flexies. They want me to go buy and print every flexi that exists.
Out of curiosity, too, what printers are you printing with now? Are you still printing, or is this kind of taking up the majority of your time?
I still print. So I have an Ender wire. So I converted my Ender 3 Pro into a switch wire. And then I have two Creativity Elves, which is a not very well-known Core XY printer. It was 300 by 300 by 350, so it's huge. I knew it was a skeleton. I knew it needed to be updated. I put Clipper on it immediately. I put a new bed on it immediately. I did a bunch of stuff right away to it. And it was like $400. So it was a really good deal. And so I have that one. I've had that for a long time. And then this one belonged to a friend of mine on Facebook. It was his. And he passed away a couple years ago. And this last Thanksgiving, I was contacted by his widow, who said, I know he wanted you to have it. Can you come get it? And so I did.
So it's staying.
So it's
we could attach some art to it. Yeah, beautiful. Yeah. That's really cool. I was going to say $400 for a 300 by 300
by 350
bed at that time. Like that. Yeah, that was a steal. I think it's funny. You start off with the Ender and immediately was just like, need the bigger bed. Let's go.
Well, I was printing bag tags for the swim team, and I needed like 150 or 200 of them. And the bigger the bed, the more you can print at a time. Yeah. So, and the fewer color swaps you have to do per set of tags. So, I did one batch of 490 tags for the team one year. So
that's a lot of tags. Oh my God.
It's a lot easier with two printers.
Holy cow. No kidding. But thank you, Steve, so much for your time. I appreciate it so much. We're really excited about your project, and thank you for talking about it with us.
Thank you for having me. It was great.
Welcome back, everyone. I am here with Ian of HueForge, and we're going to show you a couple of things that he has created with Steve at HueForge.
I put a post up of the some grayscale prints that I've been doing, and essentially what I was doing was using a lithophane, but in a negative. So instead of the dark bits being raised and the light bits being thinner, I had them the other way around, and then I was blending the filaments into it. So I was using obviously black at the bottom and then lighter towards the top to create like a blending effect. Steve commented on it. I think he thought originally that they were lithophanes. Once he realised that they were front lit and they didn't need to be held up to light, he started to private message and he said, look, I've got this software, but I think I can adjust it to help you do what you're doing faster. It's a really, really painful process at the beginning. I think the Sons of Anarchy one that I sent you took something like half an hour just to slice it, waiting for it to slice. Then I'd come back to it. But every time you make a filament change in the layers, you have to re-slice. So I got the bamboo around January time. That made things a lot easier. I could just leave it overnight.
How did you fall into the 3D print world?
To be honest, it was just, I've been seeing it for years. I just fancied doing it, on the side. Not even any intention of making any money or selling anything. I mean, to be honest, I don't get a lot of time. Like we spoke earlier about
very little time.
To sit down and spend that much time doing that. The thing with this is you can spend a bit of time, hit print, especially with the bamboo, and just leave it
and just walk away.
Come back in the morning and it's finished. Yeah.
Quality of life improvement for sure. The photos that you were trying to make prints out of, were these just like sample photos? Did you make any of these photos?
Yeah, so originally they were anything from images on Google, the actual pieces of art. Like I did a Spider-Man one. I think that was like a wallpaper, desktop wallpaper. Once me and Steve met, he introduced me to Midjourney. So crazy ones every now and then where I just literally write, imagine pop art, and then I'll start to add to it. I kind of start from a base point.
Was this the Spider-Man that you were talking about?
Yeah, so this one was done without HueForge, so this was pre-HueForge. With this method, I was obviously the only thing I had was the slicer. Now, the slicer and when you click between the two on HueForge, they look nothing alike. With this, it was all just intuition, really. Just if you look at the top right-hand corner, you've got the very top bit is one layer of normal grey over black. I think the next three layers that you can see with these contrasts there, they're all the same colour, but they get lighter obviously as you layer them over each other. So once I'd figured out how many layers of each colour I could use and still get a different shade, I could kind of work with it.
Do you, just to like remain consistent, do you use the same brands, the same colours?
My full library at the minute is eSun and Sunlu. I can order them on Amazon and they can be at my door the following morning. That's just the convenience of it. So they're the main filaments that I started out with. They print really well.
I thought it was interesting in my talk with him. He said that you didn't hold back at all in the best way possible. He just like took it and he ran with it. He understood the concept that I was doing.
Oh, the way he described it was, I think he was quite happy to find someone as crazy as him.
What were some of the projects you were like super excited? Were there some things that you just knew you were going to be creating with HueForge?
I'm quite open-minded anyway, to be honest. Like I don't have a particular style of art that I'm interested in. I think it's just anything that catches the eye. For the last couple of weeks, obviously running up to release, I've been printing things that targeted, really, if you will, things that I think people want to see.
You have such like a wide variety, but you've been doing a lot of the art stuff, and I didn't even think, oh yeah, watercolor. You've nailed it with the color choices in these guys too.
It's actually different to the other prints as well, so it's still made on HueForge. You've got a negative option. So usually you start with a darker colour at the bottom. This one's printed the opposite way. But this is how Steve was making the colour lithophanes, really. So you'd have a white base layer working forward towards darker layers.
Interesting. Oh, and this is how he combines the two different ideas together, right? Because
Yeah, so obviously in the software originally it just made lithophanes. Once we got talking, he added a function to switch from frontlit to backlit. So you could do. He's done it actually with a few examples. You can print the exact same print in color lithophane or frontlit.
Being a Star Wars nerd that I am, I feel like I have to pull this one up. You have the ability to blend different colors together, use like a black and a white and get some gray. But how many colors did you use on Han Solo Carbonite?
This one's 4. So to be honest, I have done a couple with just 2 colors, but it's mainly Steve's forte that he likes to do the really thin ones with just 2 colors. I can get quite a lot of depth with 4 colors. So this is black, gray. I think it's Sunlu silver, but it's basically just a pale gray and white.
Just so people understand.
Yeah.
Oh, how incredibly thin these are. Did you guys start in the beginning with like thicker prints, or did you start when you were originally doing those manual swaps?
I think that's why it was taking me so long. So with the original, before we started testing HueForge and obviously making it to what it is now, I was setting everything at around 2.4 thickness. Everything was done through lithophane makers online. Obviously, they do take quite a bit longer to slice and print than the thinner ones. I think the Han Solo one's about 1.4 millimeters thick. There's not much there.
I saw the cameo print, I think was the first one that came across my feed when I was looking through social media. And I saw it and I was like, that's really beautiful. Immediately assuming, because I only saw a flat 2D photo, that it was this like thicker. It took someone to go and like tilt it over the side that made me go,
that's when you get the reaction.
Yeah. That's wild. Like even on a flat painting, you'll have some kind of like depth to it. And this honestly is so insanely thin. It was so impressive, but also, I mean, the time, it's amazing at the same time. You're not using so much filament, and it's because it's so thin, right, that you can have, I guess, like a wider option of colors because we're blending colors together. So now we're like doubling, tripling your options of colors depending on what you have, so long as it has some translucency to it, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you've got, for instance, if you I've like a coffee brown, you put that over the top of black and you can make 4 different shades with that one filament. So it's not just the filaments that you've got. You can make different shades by blending 2 together as well. If you put a red and a blue together, it will create a different color, but you'll still see a bit of the original color behind, obviously from the staggering of the layers.
So tell me about this guy right here. This is one of your most recent.
Yeah, so right? This is a HueForge image. There is a few mistakes in the image which you get from HueForge anyway. You might not have noticed the squares on the chessboard near the left hand, but this was the closest I got it where he actually had 5 fingers or 4 fingers and a thumb. So I'd spent so many times rerunning it and changing the prompts, and this one was the best that I came up with on it.
The highlighting on his armor, that's just so satisfying to see how well it blends in, and you don't have those, like on the board, those super harsh lines. It's just so impressive to be like, these machines that a lot of us have for us hobbyists are capable of doing that.
Put a post up and there's always someone that comes on and says, oh, let's make 2D things with a 3D printer. We're going back in time and all the rest of it. But it's just another thing that you can do with these printers. You know, if you get bored of doing the norm and you want to make one of these, you can do. It's just another route that you can go down.
I appreciate that you've used a variety of art as opposed to just sticking with one kind of thing. Gone to some like traditional koi, like I said, people, animals, abstract. It's been really cool. I'm going to point it out. You have to be an art guy to some degree, right? Because you are a tattoo guy, so you have some appreciation. You have some appreciation for art. Ever been anything that crossed your mind that how you can cross like the two together?
I actually really like the grayscale stuff. Obviously, it's how I started doing these. I love putting the colour in, and when me and Steve had the earlier conversations, colour was the way that I wanted to go. But I kind of have this, like the Sin City effect, where you can have a black and white image, red lips. That's the way I want these to go.
It's just wild, right? We're in a community of people where print lines is just something that we've come to accept, right?
Yeah.
Like that's not even mentioned here because they're so I said they're so thin. I think the only thing, honestly, that gave mine away when I could see it was the fact that I had some stringing because of my temperature choice. I
Yeah.
don't think you could have seen it because of what the program did, which is so exciting. I can't imagine how many hours that this printer has saved you. It's just wild to think you had the patience to sit there and do that. We're glad that you did, because you guys have come up with something that's really awesome.
Yeah, I keep saying to him, I'm along for the ride. So I've been there literally since, obviously, I had the software before as a lithophane maker, but I've been there from day one as HueForge. So I have no intentions of going anywhere.
This is very cool. You both should be very proud of yourselves for what you created. You made some really awesome things, and you made so many other people really excited to use this and excited to share. So we appreciate you. Thank you so much for that. And thanks for taking the time out to come and talk with us and share a little bit more of your art. Again, guys, we will be posting all of the links down below. So you guys make sure you go and give Ian a follow as well.
Thank you.
Thank you all for joining me. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed what you watched today. And I will see you all in the next video.